Lab number 8, talking about the gymnosperms. So we are looking at the vascular plants, but those particular vascular plants now have the seeds comparatively to the ferns, which were seedless. So in this particular case, we're talking about several major phyla or divisions. In the lab, we'll cover the cicadophyta, cicads or sago palms, and then we'll talk about the ginkgophyta, ginkgos, and Conifers. For within our lab, we don't have gametophyte whatsoever, even though I guess I can get some of the Phaedrus later on, but it's not right now. So today we'll talk about the cicads, the ginkgos, and the pines, probably most common one or very easy to recognize. So here we're looking at the sago palm. You've probably seen it. They are all over the place. We're using it as an ornamental plants. I have two in front of my house, one, and then on the backyard I have another one. I didn't plant them per se, but my next door neighbor, he had two of those cicada palms or sago palms, and they, the squirrels, they grabbing the seeds, they putting them in the ground, and then it grows. And then we'll talk a little bit about ginkgos. We discussed that a little bit further, and then of course the pine or pine-like plants. Critical innovations of the gymnosperms. Critical innovations of the gymnosperms, and I think it says somewhere right here. First of all, we are talking about the seed, right? And then now the sperm do not require water to swim. So in this particular case, the fertilization, so in this particular case, the pollen or production of the pollen is another critical innovation. So, or you can say water is no longer necessary for the reproduction. So seed and water no longer necessary for the reproduction. Do the gymnosperms exhibit alternation of generations? Absolutely. All of the plants do. Is the dominant body of the gymnosperm sporophyte or gametophyte? Sporophyte. Again, as a rule of thumb, unless it's a moss or liverwort or hornwort, whenever you see with the naked eye the plant, you're most likely looking at the sporophyte. So, and of course, sporophytes are diploid and the gametophyte are haploid. Now, what does gymnosperm means? Gymno means naked, sperm means seed, naked seed, right? Yeah, they have naked seed. Why the seed is naked? Not because it does not have a cover. It does have a cover. It does not have additional thing which known as a fruit. Okay, so please make sure you understand that. They called naked seeded not because the seed does not have a cover. It's not enclosed in the fruit. Because lots of students think, well, it's naked, so it don't have a cover. Yeah, it does have a cover. The seed has a cover. It does not have fruits. It's not producing the fruits. Define monoecious. We discussed that already last time. So in this, let's see that. Mono means one, right? So on the same plant, I'm not sure if we, yeah, here we go. Gymnosperms are either monoecious, both sexes are on the same plant. So mono, single plant, will produce male and female gametophytes. Dioecious means two. Dioecious, two plants. One of them will be a male plant, another one will be a female plant. Both of my sago palms on either side of the house are males, and you will see the pictures, and I had to kind of sneak out the yeah, I'll show you the pictures. So where do you find sperm in the gymnosperms? The actual sperm will be found inside of the pollen grain. Egg is the gamete. It's a female gamete. So if it's an egg, if it's a gamete, you will find it in a gametophytic generation, in the plant which producing gametes, and the egg is one of those gametes, right? Give an example of dioecious gymnosperm. I just told you that the cicadas or sago palms are dioecious. That would be one. Another one, like I said, during the summer I bought, I couldn't resist myself, and it was on sale. It was a very sad looking tree. Now it's actually a little bit better, but not a very tall ginkgo. I bought it and I planted. So yes, ginkgo trees are also, ginkgos are dioecious. Most of the pine trees, on the other hand, are monoecious, so conifers. The redwoods, the pine tree, fir tree, Christmas trees, all that stuff. The cypress trees, they are monoecious. But for the dioecious sago palms, and here we go, cicads, but not the cicads which are insects, the one that are loud singing outside, but the producing loud sounds, but the plant cicads. So in this particular case, you're looking at the male cone and the female cone. So two different plants. That would be a male plant, that would be a female plant, male cone, female cone. And let's kind of take a look on this. So here we go. This is the picture of a very sad looking, well, tiny sago palm. This is the frond of the sago palm compound leaf, and this is the this is how sago palm look like. It's one of the I think it was my neighbor's sago palm before it died in the during the freeze. So in this particular case, yes, this is the sago palms, and here we go. This is the male cone. That's literally from my front backyard. That's on the backyard. So in this particular case, it's a male cone, and this is a female cone right here. Female plant, male plant. That's my neighbors across the street. Well, actually, diagonal across the street. But in any case, so here we have a female plant. This is a male plant. Drawing, once again, you don't really have to draw. You can take the picture. So female, male cones, and this is what the male cone look like. This is the microphyls, and those grains are nothing else but the pollen. As a matter of fact, pollen is relatively large for those ones. In some cases, it goes through the air, but in most of the cases, insects are the one which carries it from one to another. And this is the pollen under the magnification. Here we're looking at the female cone, so female plant, female cone, and then if you kind of open those leaflets, you will see the nice and orange seeds. And this is what the seed look like. You see those leaflets covering the seed, so and they are relatively large. Periodically in the face-to-face class, and you can see that this is the cover. This is the actual seed, well, and the sperm with the embryo right there. Periodically, the students asking me, can you eat them? Well, you can eat pretty much anything in the world at least once, right? So yes, technically you can eat that, no problem. In most of the cases, we do not consume it. They are really, really bitter. So that's just part. Now the question is, are the seeds covered and closed in the fruit? No, seeds goes like this. See right there, no fruits whatsoever. So it's a big resounding no. And that's the reason why they call naked seeded, because you just see the seed, no fruits. Is the plant a sporophyte or gametophyte? Well, in this particular case, that's the sporophyte, because out of the seed will have the plant. Well, seed is diploid. The sporophyte will be producing, because the gametophytes are drastically reduced and they will be inside of the sporophyte. Cicads are monoecious or dioecious. Well, we have a male and female, so that they will be a dioecious. What is the economic importance of the cicads? Well, first of all, ornamental plants. We are growing them as ornaments. Right now, it's not a very large group of plants to begin with. There is not too many species, I think within hundreds of them. So ornamental plants, and if I remember correctly, in some parts of the world, the tropical parts of the world, they might use the stems as the source of starch. But you have to split it, wash it off because there is some chemicals in there. So yeah, it's a messy, but yes, in some cases they're using it for food. But generally ornamental plants. Have you seen those plants around? I don't know the place if we have those on the South campus, but like I said, every other house in my neighborhood, well, maybe not every other house, but we have quite a few houses in my neighborhood which has it. The neighbor at the beginning of the street, he has like 10 or 15 of those cicadas in his front yard. There, so he planted along his driveway. So have you seen around? Well, maybe, and it's in different neighborhoods. All right, so now ginkgos, Ginkgo bilobas. They're a very interesting group because right now it's represented by only one species, Ginkgo biloba itself. So dichotomous venation, whenever the veins going kind of away from each other, and of course, wishbone pattern, and also the something which known as the duck foot leaf. They basically look kind of like a duck foot, I guess. So here what we have divination, this is the grown tree, and this is the seeds, not fruits, it's not berries, it's a seed of the ginkgo. So here what we're looking at the preserved leaves, very, very nice, and you can see the wishbone pattern clearly. So describe the veins appearing on the leaf. Well, dichotomous venation, the kind of fanning out. Here we go. That would be a good term to describe how veins appears on the leaf. The leaves are haploid or diploid. Some of the students have an issue with that. They're like, I don't know. Are they haploid or diploid? Can you see it with your naked eye? Yes. Is it a vascular plant? Yes. If you see it with your naked eye and it's a vascular plant, it's a diploid. No matter if it's a leaf, no matter if it's a stem or piece of bark, it's a diploid cell. So diploid cells made it. Are you looking at the sporophyte or gametophyte? If it's a diploid, it gotta be a sporophyte. A ginkgo is monoecious or dioecious. I already told you they are dioecious. There is a males and a female plants, and usually we do not plant the female. We are discriminating against the female trees, and I already explained it to you once during the lecture, and I'll refresh your memory on that. So is it possible to tell by the leaf, just looking at the leaf, can you tell if it's a monoecious, can you tell if it's a male or female? No, they look exactly the same leaves. All you need to do is look whenever they're producing either male cones or female seeds. That's it. My tree, the one which I planted, it's small. I haven't seen it producing anything, so I still don't know if it's a male or female. If it would be a female, it would be quite a bummer, I guess. Why the municipalities commonly plant only male trees? Because they do not produce seeds, and the outer part of the seed, especially when it hits the ground, it's producing an awful smell, really bad odor. The seeds, not the female plants themselves. Female plant, you will not be able to smell female. No. The seeds of the ginkgo producing, which is produced on the female trees, producing a bad smell whenever they ripe. And then that's of course to attract any kind of animals which will be eating. The outer part will be digested. The seeds most likely will not, because they have a fairly tough shell. But yes, you can eat the seeds themselves. In some of the parts, I have a real good Korean friend, and he's like, yeah, we eat them periodically, kind of roasted, salted with a beer, really good. advertising to drink beer or anything like that. And for those ones, you shouldn't be eating too many of them because they have some mild toxin as well. So here we're looking at the fanned part of the or veins of the leaf, and this is the fossilized leaf, and you can clearly see the outlines of the ginkgo. And that particular leaf is about, well, that particular rock is about 150 or so millions of years old. So you can see that the ginkgos are very old and still survived, so it's a living fossil. So examine it's more than 30 millions. That one is about 150. Draw the fossil. You don't really have to draw, you can just print screen it and put it right there. How to identify a fossil that belongs to the ginkgo? Well, first of all, the shape of the leaf is very similar to what we see right here, right? And second of all, look at the veins. Veins are clearly goes into that particular fan shape as well. So now ginkgo plant, this is of course is a picture of the female. So leaves are the same in the males and females, but that particular naked seed and that outer part producing a very strong, quite nasty odor. And this is actually the seeds inside of that particular seed, and kind of look like a nut, sometimes referred to as a ginkgo nuts. That's not really a nut because nut is the referred to the fruit part. But yeah, and in this particular case, we're looking at the preserved herbarium, a preserved specimen, the leaf itself, and this is the actual seed. And here's the part, this is the male cone, so to speak. All right, now for the pinophyta, or sometimes referred to as coniferophyta, sketch and label male cone versus the female cone. Very simple. This is just the branch, as you can see in the middle, pine needles. This is the preserved specimen of the sequoias, and those ones about 60 or so millions of years old. Quite interesting. You can see those needle-like leaves, etc. So now looking at this, the female cone, male cone, right there. You can see female and male, and again, those ones can be found on the same tree, not in exactly the same place. Typically, they are spread out, but on the same tree. So they are monoecious, male or pollen cone, and a mature female cone. So pines are monoecious or dioecious, since we can find it on the same one. It's a monoecious single plant. Same plant has the both male and female cones. What are those cones part of the sporophyte or gametophyte generations? They continue to be a sporophyte generation, but the gametophyte will be developed inside of them. Which cone contain a megaspore? See, megaspore, sporophyte. A female will contain a larger spore, megaspores, and the males will contain smaller one known as a microspores, also known as the pollen. So here we're looking at the female and male cones. Male cones, that's the magnification at about 8 times, and you can see the pollen. This is actual pollen, and the female cones. Now within the female cone, you will see the seeds. Now looking at the seed, this is the cover of the seed. Inside of the cover, you will actually have the embryo with the food source, and this is so-called wing for the gliding through the air, distributing away from the parent plant, right? Because without that wing, the seed will just hit right the ground right next to the parent plant, and they'll start competing for the sunlight. So observe the pine seeds. So pine seeds on the display, label seeds and the wing. So whenever you're looking, that dark spot right here is the seed, the rest of it is the wing. So yeah, that one does not really have the seed, it probably fell off. So here we're looking at the seed and then the wing, or seed and the wing. Here we go. You can see the seed. This is the seed covered by the seed cover, and the seed actually inside, and the wing one, right? what is the function of the wing for the seed distribution? Distribute through the air. Are the seeds haploid or diploid? Seed started as a zygote, right? Zygote is the diploid, so it would be a diploid. Because it's a diploid, it will grow into a sporophyte. All right, well, here we're looking at again, a little bit more of the male cones, high magnification, and you can see under the high magnification, male cone look like a regular cone, just smaller size. So here, hence the name microspores, because it's producing small spores. Now, the cross section, if you'll cross-sect, you'll take this particular one and cross-sect, you will see something like this. And under a higher magnification, you will see that it will be filled with the tiny little bitty pollen grains, essentially male gametophytes, but tiny little bitty one. Okay? So drawing label microsporangium. Microsporangium is one of those. And microspores, so male gametophyte, the pollen grains. So here we're increasing the magnification, and you'll see the sporangium itself and the pollen grain. So the pollen grain, in some cases, you can actually see if you'll increase the magnification nicely, you will see that, let me find a nice one somewhere. That one is kind of look nice right here. You can see that the central part is kind of dark, and then there is a lighter two parts. So what we see is the pollen grain itself and something which known as the air sacs. So in this particular case, air sacs will increase the surface area so the pollen can glide through the air much nicer. So here we're looking again, I have to go under higher magnification, the tiny little bit, and we don't have the microscope capable of that. But I think the next picture shows you right here, basically kind of shows you the single pollen grain with the wings. And again, it's not flapping the wings to fly, it's actually gliding through the air. So here we're looking at the air sacs. You don't really see them, so probably will not be on the lab practical. So pollen grains represent a sporophyte or gametophyte generation. Look right here, pollen grains, the male gametophyte. So it's a gametophyte generation. Based on your observation of pollen grains, how can the pollen get to the egg within the female cones? Glide through the air. Sometimes it takes a very, very long time because it's very light. It can glide through the air for great distances. You know, occasionally in springtime here in Houston, you just wash the car, and then there will be like a nice cool front coming in, and then you're coming out in the morning and you see that the car is completely covered by the yellow stuff. And that yellow stuff is the pollen, and that particular pollen can actually come literally from Canada. How in the world? Well, the air front comes from the Canada, from the Arctic through the Canada, picking up all of those pollen grains, going through the Great Plains, picking up more pollen grains from now grasses, coming in, hit that particular warm, wet, humid air of the Gulf of Mexico, and it all will settle down here in the Houston area. That's one of the reasons why we have so many cases of allergies. Sometimes referred as the Houston is the allergy capital of the world, because quite often a high concentration of the pollen might lead to the allergies, and we have all kinds of pollen here in Houston. So now, when we're looking, here we go, a higher magnification, yes. Let's see if I will be able to find. Well, I could kind of give you the idea. So we're looking, for example, right here, you can see the air pocket, and the pollen grain. Anyway, air sacs or air pockets, which will increase the surface area, allow it to glide through the air. So now we're looking at this particular structure, which you will have label ovule, integument, female gametophyte, archegonium, and the egg. So now whenever you're looking at this, first of all, let's kind of figure it out what you're looking, the whole structure. The whole structure is ovule. This particular whole thing is the ovule. All right. Now we're looking at the integument. Integumentary system means skin. So the cover, the outer layer, or layers, I should say, that's the integument. Now, female gametophyte, all of that right here in the middle, all of this right here, the kind of tealish part, that's the female gametophyte. Now, here you're looking at the archegonium, that structure, kind of middle oval structure, and the central part of that, the single cell, is the egg. So here we're looking again, integument, well, ovulum, integument, female gametophyte, the central part, the archegonium, and the egg. Archegonium, egg. All right. Any questions, any problems? So yeah, a higher magnification. So you're looking at the archegonium. That's a part of the female gametophyte, archegonium, the egg. Egg, archegonium, ovule. Yeah. Make sure you will know the female gametophyte, archegonium, the egg, ovule as well. Is the archegonium part of the gametophyte or sporophyte generation? Look, it has egg inside. If it has an egg inside, it's a gametophyte. If it's a gametophyte, it would be a haploid, of course. What is the function of the integument? It's protecting. Protecting what? The female gametophyte. From what? From drying out. In pines, which generation completely dependent upon the other? The gametophyte generation is located inside of the pine cone, and the pine cone located on top of the pine branch of the pine. So the gametophyte totally depend on the sporophyte generation. Is the egg haploid or diploid? Eggs is one of the gametes. They are haploid. What will be produced when the pollen reach the egg? So whenever the pollen reach the egg, the sperm will meet with the egg, fuse, and it will create what? A zygote. The first step toward the sporophyte. And zygote, this new cell, would be a diploid because the haploid amount of chromosomes from the egg will be combined with the same amount of chromosomes, hopefully from the sperm. Therefore, double set of chromosomes. Diploid. Will it be part of the sporophyte or gametophyte? Gametophytes are always haploid, sporophytes are diploid. If the zygote is diploid, it's part of the sporophyte generation. What is the dominant plant body in the gymnosperms? That, by the way, is a female gametophyte. The whole thing is ovule, integument, archegonia, and the egg. So what is the dominant plant body in the gymnosperms? Sporophyte, double set of the chromosomes, 2N, diploid. What is the meaning of dioecious? Dioecious means we'll have a male and a female plants. Leads to critical innovation of the gymnosperms. Water is no longer needed for reproduction. Seeds. Do the gymnosperms exhibit alternation of generations? As all the plants, they do. Name 2 dioecious gymnosperms we examined in the lab today. Sago palm, or cycad, and a ginkgo. What is the mode of pollination for the most of the gymnosperms, wind, water, or animals? In most of the cases, it's wind. In some cases, animals, but most of the time it's wind. Are there seeds of gymnosperm enclosed in the fruit? No, that's the reason why they called it a naked seed, because it's not covered in the fruit. Female gametophyte always bears the eggs. Male gametophyte bears the sperm, or you can say archegonia with the eggs, antheridia with the sperm, whichever you prefer. But eggs and the sperm would work. List 2 economic uses of the gymnosperms. For humans, what do? We eat them. You can say we don't eat gymnosperms. Yeah, we do. Pine nuts pine nuts. Pesto pasta based on the pine nuts. Delicious if you haven't tried it. Basilic, pine nuts, a little bit of olive oil, done. Lunchtime, right? And then, of course, we are using it for what? Ornamental, planting them everywhere. And also pine trees specifically, or Conifers phyta, are used for a lot for building materials. Most of the wood which we have, which we're building with, is actually gymnosperms. And then some of them used for the medicine as well. So food, medicine, construction, the ornamental plant, what it will be, what kind of, I guess, recreational purposes. Yeah. And essentially we're done. You will need to do the main reflection questions on your own, the purpose, what you learn, observe, maybe what exactly, did you have anything new? And then how can you use, modify, apply this concept in the real life? All right, and again, try to be a little bit more descriptive on those. At least a paragraph. Don't just give me one-liners. Not good. I will deduct the points for one-liners. And yes, it's a 1 or 2 points, but over a period of time, 20 labs, 20 points. All right, now we have 21 labs total in this course. Other than that, we are done for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll stop.